Good evening, good
Evening.
evening, and welcome to Thriving Tuesday Moments of Encouragement and the preliminary to Loving Stuff. On tonight, we are combining together to talk about the gratefulness journey that we all need to be on every single day. I know that this is a difficult time for many people, yet gratefulness is something that we have to have, even in some dark moments. If we really know and trust God, we will find a place to be grateful. Good morning, good evening, Lady Clarice. Y'all know I'm used to morning, so I'll spit morning out in a heartbeat. But we are grateful for all who are here, and we are hopeful that you will say you are here and let us know that you are here. I'm going to introduce again, really present to each of you again our guest for the evening as we share with what it means to be grateful every day. So I introduce to some and present to most of you Marcus R. Holmes from Detroit, Michigan, who is the consummate little brother. And I was really good friends with his brother, and we were his uh, his protectors at a time in life. And so Marcus is a HR professional and knows clearly what it means to deal with some struggle, deal with some pain, deal with some consistent sorrow. Yet he has written a marvelous book. Will you show it to them while I'm doing that? Called The
Absolutely.
Gratefulness is you can see it very well. The Gratefulness Journey Every Day. And it is a book and a workbook. It helps you to work through what it means
Mhm.
to be grateful even in some dark situations. And so I asked Marcus to share the story that really kind of propelled him into this gratefulness journey every day. And it's a good time to do it because it was a holiday, and it was while as a family they were dealing with death and the struggle with that. And his mother gave him some very sage advice, some wisdom on that holiday. So, Marcus, will you tell us that story?
Absolutely. And again, thank you for having me
Absolutely.
and for joining in partnership with the encouragement. I'm encouraged already to be on the screen with you. And so thank you so much. And just to give a little bit of context to the story, in 2012, Thanksgiving Eve, my mother had lost her husband in 2009, two sisters after that point, and three children before that point. So she only had two sons left out of five, and no parent seeks to bury their children, especially because two of those losses were sudden, unexpected. As a matter of fact, in 2005, the brother that Valencia mentioned, they were my guardian angels. My brother Stephen, bless his memory, never arrived to Thanksgiving dinner, and he was making the macaroni and cheese, which, by the way, if you're making macaroni and cheese, I'm thinking about Stefan right now because he could make it almost exactly as my mom made it. And he was one of the few of us that got it down pat, because my mother was not a person who gave you the recipe. She said a little more of this, a little less of that. And so he didn't make it, and we found him on the floor from a massive heart attack in his apartment. And so imagine death after death after death after death. I had decided that I wasn't cooking Thanksgiving dinner. I had decided in 2012 I was going to go to Uptown Barbecue, if anybody knows about that in Detroit, and get us some rib tips and some sides and bring it home for me, my mother, and my sweetest, sweetie girl in the whole wide world, Autumn. And my mother, I could hear her yelling, and she normally doesn't yell. She's kind of a woman who had forceful words, but not with a lot of volume. But I
Yes.
heard her calling for me to come up the steps. And I got upstairs and I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "I don't smell anything cooking." I said, "Well, no, ma'am, you don't. There will be no cooking this Thanksgiving." And she said, "Come here." And she grabbed my hand and said, "Baby, you have the right to grieve as deeply as you want to for however long that you want to. You have the right. But you must also reserve the right to be thankful for, grateful for, and take inventory of everything and everybody that you have left.
Wow.
And from that moment till now, the hair still stand on the back of my neck when I say it and hear it, because you don't think about being grateful of taking an inventory when you've lost of what you have left. It
Yep.
almost feels like it could be diminishing the loss. But what it empowered me to know is that there are some things in your memory and there are some things in your experiences for which you should be grateful for, even
Absolutely.
though they didn't feel so good. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful for the
That
memory of Princess
that's
Irene Holmes,
that
and she is amazing in my life.
yes, that is absolutely great. Great, great. Miss Princess was um like many of the mothers that were part of our lives, one that we are mourning, but also celebrating the blessing of her life tonight as we
Mm-hmm.
think about Bobby Jordan and we think
Mm-hmm.
about the fact that she has made her transition, and but yet we
Mm-hmm.
are grateful as we talked a few minutes ago about the stories
Mm-hmm.
about Bobby's excellence and how
Mm-hmm.
she propelled us to excellence, even when she said it in ways that didn't always feel good.
Right.
They just didn't feel good.
Not at
Yet
all.
yet it made us better.
It
And
made us
so,
think.
what I am learning to be grateful for in this season of great loss,
Mm-hmm.
over the last couple of years, we're commemorating the birthday of one of my mentors, my former bishop. His wife is here with us, and today was his birthday and would have been his
Mm-hmm.
birthday. And as I think back on all of those lives that we say are lost, are a loss to us. They are lost because they're no longer with us. But what they implanted in us, what they gave us, can never be lost. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, there's my gratefulness, even in the pain of it, even as I think about it not being as it has been, or
Mm-hmm.
not being able to speak to them or say the things that I may have said in the past.
Mm-hmm.
What I've learned is that gratefulness for just the intersection of our lives
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
will keep us in those moments if we
Mm-hmm.
let it.
Mm-hmm.
If we let it.
Yeah.
If we don't get so stuck, and I know we'll talk about being stuck a little
Yeah.
later,
Yeah.
if we don't get so stuck on our pain,
Mm-hmm.
we allow ourselves to relish in the blessing of the intersection.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is so important. Uh, James Perkins is a pastor that these words that he often says, he often talks about the museum of memories that we have
Yeah.
and how those memories are so powerful and that death cannot rob us from the
Right.
museum of memories.
Right.
And if you think about a museum, Valencia, you think about the various exhibits, there are the various experiences as you encounter them, and you can either photograph them here, or auditorily you hear them,
Hmm.
you hear the sounds of that particular exhibit, and you remember the experience, that intersection that you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's in a museum, and you can
Hmm.
always go back to that museum and polish it off. You can bring friends to that museum to
Yeah.
see the exhibit. You could explain to them how it felt to be in the moment when that intersection happened, and death cannot rob you from that. Trauma cannot rob you. Trauma will defer your attachment to the memory, but it cannot rob you from all of the museum of memory. So I love that. I love it.
Yes. So as we, Thriving Tuesdays isn't long, and we're going to share more on love and stuff. But let's talk about this gratefulness journey every day. One of the things that on Sunday I talked to the church about thanking God in advance, even though you don't know what the journey is going to be. You
Mhm,
don't know what the struggle is going to be. You don't know what the battles are.
mhm,
But like we talked earlier about the Jehoshaphat story, that they
mhm,
praised God in advance
mhm,
because the journey
mhm,
it was a fixed fight, and
mhm,
by faith they knew that, and we know it too, that
mhm,
even though we will struggle, or even though we will go through some things, we
mhm,
know it's a fixed fight.
mhm,
We
mhm,
know that at the end of it, whatever God has allowed, God will
mhm,
keep us in the process of doing it, and
mhm,
for that we can be grateful in advance because we know who's on our side.
mhm,
And so, as we talk about having a gratefulness journey every day, and doing it intentionally, tell
mhm.
us what that means.
So there are many parts to it. I think there is a practicum. There's a practice to it that
Hmm.
you do every day. One of the things I do every day, Valencia, is when I awaken, I connect myself to the providence of God, because before I'm doing anything, and we tend to ascribe a lot of value to what we do and what we have and how we
Hmm.
are, but very little to the being, just being.
Yeah.
And so if you can get into grateful for not your circumstances, but just that you're here,
Yeah.
that because you're here, there is some purpose in that, and you
Yeah.
can begin to center yourself and be grateful. There is going to be noise all around you, but the practice is getting into being grateful for being, because
Yes.
we often just take inventory of the doing, right? But there is a whole being, right? And we are created in God's image and likeness, first to be. I know in
First.
Him we live, move, and have our being.
Being.
So
Hmm.
it's the being that you got to get into the practice of. And I think then there are other simple things that you use to stack a habit on, because the basic things, I think, is where we start. And most times I think we take those for granted. You know, we take for granted that we have a home until we see a homeless person. Then we
Yeah.
start to think about it, right?
Yeah.
Or we're grateful for food until we see chitlins are $30 for 5 pounds, right?
Yes.
It's the basic blessing that we should be grateful for in practice. So it's the everyday things that, as we age, right? There are times you get up and you grunt, but when you were 20 something, you didn't grunt, right? It's the
Right.
basic things, being able to reach over and put on my glasses. It's the basic thing in practice. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things gratefulness does. It illuminates the things that are ordinary, or that you think are, and it
Yeah.
also illuminates the things that you haven't arrived at being grateful for. It's
Yes.
that relative at Thanksgiving that you don't want to sit next to,
Yeah. I
but
understand it.
it illuminates that, because you got to find something to be grateful for in that
Even
human,
in that,
and
or that
even.
you are there at, so for example, like that happens to it, many of us. And
Mhm,
I think that getting to the point where you can be in their presence and it doesn't bother you
mhm,
is something to be grateful for. It
yeah,
doesn't mean that their relationship is going to be necessarily any better, but
right,
you're not harboring anything.
right,
You can be in their presence and it doesn't phase you like
right.
that. And those are the things we strive for. That's why it's a everyday journey, that we
It's
are
everyday journey.
striving for it every single day, that there's not a day that goes by that we don't stay,
Yeah.
what can I be grateful for? I talked about last week. Wake up in the morning. What
Mhm,
am I grateful for? By the
mhm,
time I go to bed at night, what am I grateful for?
mhm,
So I'm grateful for the start of a new day. I'm grateful
mhm,
for new mercies.
mhm,
But at the end of the day, I'm grateful that I didn't clock out on somebody, or like I
mhm,
had to kind of have a conversation with the light company today, but I stayed safe. And I
mhm,
was grateful for that,
mhm.
that I stayed safe in the conversation.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that gratefulness has to be not only intentional, but it has to be observed.
Mhm,
We have to look at our lives and look for the gratefulness. We have to
mhm,
seek out opportunities to
mhm.
be grateful. And we're grateful for you too, Karen Poole.
Oh, we
Uh,
sure are.
and we and be grateful for not only things and people, as she said, but just the state of being.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
know, the old school used to say, I'm clothed and in my right mind.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thank you that I'm clothed and in my right mind. just
yeah.
just that I can speak and talk and know. And even though sometimes we forget stuff and all of those things, but in
Mhm,
our right minds, in that we
mhm.
know who we are, we know where we are, we know the people around us, because that's not promised
Yeah.
any given day.
Mhm,
And we're going to get ready to let you slip out so that you can get ready for love and stuff. But I wanted to say this. My aunt was talking today with me about a lot of things that happened in the Lufkin community on Friday. Death, accidents, all of these things happen on one day. And when life throw comes at you like that on one day, it's
mhm,
easy to get stuck, again, stuck in the pit of despair, stuck
mhm,
in the pit of I don't want to deal with this, it's all too much.
mhm,
But if we stand still
mhm,
for just a moment
mhm,
and zero in on what else is going on.
mhm,
Good evening, Inez. And you look around and you see that my loved ones, Even if one is gone, like your mother said, be grateful for what you have left, that we
Mhm,
can't get so stuck in
mhm,
the pain of what we're dealing with right
mhm,
now that
mhm,
we fail to
mhm,
look at what we have,
mhm,
fail to look at who we are, fail to
mhm,
look at where we've come from,
mhm,
fail to look at the promise of God for where we're going.
mhm,
There's always something
mhm.
to be grateful for.
Yes.
And I think that if we can get there in this time of pandemic that has lingered
Mhm,
and multiple deaths that don't stop,
mhm.
y'all, it's not stopping.
Yeah.
Just because it's, you don't see it every day on the news because they've moved on to something else does not mean that families and people are not hurting. They are.
Yes. Yes.
But yet,
Mhm,
we can still find a way to find gratefulness
mhm.
even in the struggle, even in the difficulty.
Yeah. I want to just add to that. I think that's
Yeah.
awesome. The gratefulness of inclusion,
Yes.
because in this season, so many people feel left out,
Excluded. Absolutely.
left behind,
Hmm.
that the
Alone.
thing that
Absolutely.
alone, that God has forgotten about you,
Yeah.
that God has allowed you to go through all of this stuff and you're going through all of it by yourself, and that in it you don't know what's going to happen. See, one of the beautiful things about gratefulness is that it opens your mind to hope,
Yes.
that there are promises ahead,
Yes.
that there is still the opportunity for you to feel the sunshine even on a cold day,
Yes.
that God has not forgotten you, that God is saying, listen, I'm not too weak that I can't still save you. Ain't my ears
Yeah.
aren't deaf that
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
going bad that I can't hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you, I see you, and you are included in my providence. And
Yeah.
so you have an expected end that's going to be glorious. It
I
you can't see it from where you're standing, but don't
right.
worry about it. I'm
Yeah.
the one handling the audio visual. I am the one. If you could just hold on for a moment, if you could just hope yourself, if you could just
Hold
will
on just a
yourself
minute.
to gratefulness, if you could just will yourself to hope, you are included in my journey of
Yeah.
gratefulness. And don't wait until the end. And that's why I love the gratefulness journey. It's not about getting to the destination. You're going to get there, but you got
Yeah.
to enjoy the sojourn, as you said earlier when we were talking. You got to
Yeah.
enjoy the ride. And so I love that gratefulness is about being included. It's about saying, I'm connected to something greater than my experience, greater than my moments, greater than even all that I've experienced. Now, it doesn't diminish what you've experienced,
Not at all.
but it says that these things are part of a greater system beyond our understanding. It does not make sense.
Absolutely.
It didn't make sense to me to lose three siblings, both my
Nope.
parents. It didn't make sense.
Nope.
But I have the hope that gratefulness brings, that the God
Yes.
that I know brings greater, and he
Yes.
never brings less to me. All of the promises in him are yea, and in him, amen. And so I'm
I,
just,
I love that. And as you go, I want to just let you know Ephesians 1:6 says to praise the glory of his grace,
mm-hmm,
wherein he has made us accepted in the
mm-hmm,
beloved.
mm-hmm,
We are accepted in the beloved. I have a friend who wrote a song and she just says that I'm accepted in the beloved, and there's no need for me to be afraid.
mm-hmm,
And I think that that's kind of where we are. We can't let our lament
mm-hmm.
eclipse our gratefulness.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
what Princess was telling me. She
yeah,
said,
don't let your lament.
you have the right to lament, and as
Right.
deeply as you want to, but you must also you must
Yes.
reserve the right to
Yes.
be grateful for and
Absolutely.
thankful for everything and everybody you got left.
Absolutely. We will
Yeah.
not let our lament eclipse our gratefulness, for
Yes.
it is a journey. And
Yes.
we are on it every day, and there are good days and there are going to be bad days. But when you wake up in the morning, start right then
Yes.
with your gratefulness. And then at least you've got one thing to be grateful for
Mm-hmm.
as you look at what the rest of the day is. We
Mm-hmm.
are grateful for you all's presence on tonight. We know that there's a lot more we could be saying, a lot more that we could be speaking, but we do know that we have to move on. It's time for Love and Stuff. And so, therefore, we're going to move on. And I'll see you on Love and Stuff in a moment. Stay online.
I think we lost you for a second. She says, stay online. Come on over to Love and Stuff. Join us at Love and Stuff. And on Thursday, join us from noon to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that would be 11 to 7 if you're Central Standard. Join us. Will be Love and Thanksgiving. We'll be across all platforms. And guess who's going to be with us? That's right. Pastor Valencia is going to be with us. The Encouragement herself is going to be there from 3 to 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. And you can come in the room and you can laugh, you can cry, you can pray, you can hear about recipes, share family stories. We're doing this because we want everybody to know that you're in the inclusion of gratefulness. The gratefulness of inclusion has your name on it. You're part of a community that's grateful to have you. And so we'll be singing you in a few moments. I'm excited. I'm on The Encouragement, and I think I just been given the platform for a moment. And I want you to make sure that you go and drop comments and share this time that we have with Pastor V. She's doing an outstanding work, an outstanding job, and not just there in Texas, but here across all social media platforms. She is the V. That's what I'm saying. TheeVee. She is the V of The Encouragement. And so you want to join her, and she will be with us momentarily, but also with us Thursday from 3 to 4:30.
I love my friends and my family because, Marcus, thank you for keeping us alive. My computer did something really crazy and just kind of lost power. But
That's
listen,
all right.
I just want to say this to you as you go on, Marcus. You can leave, and I'm going to close the show, and I'll be right there with you. Please know that.
All right. It clicked her out one more time. We're going to hang till she comes
What
back.
is that? What is going on?
No,
but listen, I'll work on it as I come to you.
Okay.
And we will, let me just say this so we can close. Stay grateful. I'm grateful for even this.
Yes.
Because then at least I know it's something I need to check on.
That's right.
Listen, be grateful every day. Find a way to be grateful on your journey and be encouraged. I'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.